I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Tyler Durden represents the collective Jungian shadow that modern society has not confronted. Problems like materialism, the monotony of email jobs, and the personas we are forced to wear in public have not gotten any better. They've only gotten worse. We are all wearing a persona in modern society and are refusing to get in touch with our more primal nature. We're repressing our Jungian shadow. Tyler Durden represents this point perfectly throughout Fight Club with the use of cutting philosophical language and by causing chaos in the main character's life. But what is the Jungian shadow archetype? This video will explore the many aspects of the Jungian shadow archetype, shadow possession, the Jungian persona, and we'll even talk about how Ted Kaczynski illustrates these points in real life. Let's break down why Fight Club's message is more relevant today than ever. The main character of the movie, Jack, represents the average American corporate worker. He works in a rather boring job that he hates and where he can't express his more primal urges. He lives in a world dominated by social status, which is achieved by having more money and buying more useless things.
Like so many others, I had become a slave to the IKEA nesting instinct.
Yes, like to order.
Eclipse personal office unit. The Hovatrek home exercise.
He feels deeply alienated from any sense of meaning. This is much like our modern world in 2025, with everyone having to constantly worry about their brand, every event being a networking opportunity, and people everywhere seeming to be a carbon copy of their job title. Psychologist Carl Jung would say that modern people, like Jack at the beginning of the movie, are consumed by their persona. The persona in the Jungian sense is not much different than how we think of the persona in everyday language. It is simply the mask we wear to hide all of the undesirable aspects of ourselves that we seek to repress. But how does the persona lead to possession by the shadow? Jung said when we repress certain aspects of ourselves and hide behind the persona, the unfavorable aspects you've hidden accumulate and eventually form the shadow. Jung writes, quote, "The shadow personifies everything that the subject refuses to acknowledge about himself, and yet is always thrusting itself upon him, directly or indirectly, for instance, inferior traits of character and or other incompatible tendencies," end quote. As Jung points out, the shadow isn't inherently evil, but it often carries a wild, primal, or taboo energy that contrasts with the persona, the polished mask we present to the world. Sometimes the shadow can represent the repressed drive you need to become successful. This aspect of the shadow is commonly missed, but it's perfectly illustrated by the seemingly random scene in the middle of the movie. Tyler Durden robs a store and threatens to kill a guy. That is, if he doesn't go back to veterinarian school.
I'm keeping your license. Gonna check in on you. I know where you live. If you're not on your way to becoming a veterinarian in 6 weeks, you will be dead.
This illustrates how the shadow isn't all bad, and in fact, acknowledging its raw, chaotic, and creative force could bring us gifts and benefits. But if it's ignored, it could lead to our ruin and even come to possess us. Let's go back to the beginning of Jack's journey and explore how this happens in Fight Club. Jack's second brush with Tyler Durden illustrates how the shadow possession grips you by attacking the places of your life where you feel most inferior and insecure about. He questions if modern products are worthy of our attention, and if they're even necessary for survival.
What are we then?
Consumers.
Right. We are consumers. We are byproducts of a lifestyle obsession. Murder, crime, poverty, these things don't concern me. What concerns me are celebrity magazines, television with 500 channels, some guy's name on my underwear.
Durden questions Jack's purpose and if he's fulfilled by being a consumer. He insinuates that modern society is broken and says that the things that you own end up owning you. The movie is still popular in 2025 because these exact issues are still relevant today. They represent our collective shadow, that is, the repressed aspects about our society that we all ignore. Are we really content with absolute comfort, IKEA catalogs, and endless technology and luxury? Or do we want to tear it all down just to have a little fun? Tyler Durden has an answer to this question. It is absolutely not. Tyler's challenge to Jack Consumer's life is just the beginning. His influence soon grows, leading to full shadow possession, as we see in his speech to Fight Club. Tyler Durden gives a famous speech where he points out that everyone at Fight Club is in a prison of their own making and is ruining their potential. But he doesn't give them the roadmap out, and he blames all of their problems on society. He encourages their resentment.
God damn it, an entire generation pumping gas, waiting tables, slaves with white collars. Advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no great war, no great depression. Our great war is a spiritual war. Our great depression is our lives.
Tyler Durden points out that everyone is resentful about the fact that they are not millionaires and movie stars. Psychologist Jordan Peterson often points out that when discussing the shadow, if you want to find it, you need to find where you are resentful and do something about it. If not, you become possessed by your shadow and you degenerate as a person. Jung writes, quote, "A man who is possessed by his shadow is always standing in his own light and falling into his own traps. Whenever possible, he prefers to make an unfavorable impression on others. In the long run, luck is always against him, because he is living below his own level and at best only attains what does not suit him." End quote. We see this playing out in the movie with Jack beginning to show up to work looking increasingly less well dressed. He starts showing up with obvious bruises. He becomes more and more unpleasant to those around him. This provides a major contrast with another aspect of the movie, which is the first rule of Fight Club. Tyler Durden makes it a point to ensure that everyone knows the first rule of Fight Club is to never talk about Fight Club. But why can't you talk about Fight Club? The answer here appears to be within several other aspects of the movie. Tyler Durden tells Jack to never talk about him. Everyone in Fight Club is also not supposed to recognize each other in public. The purpose of all these things is simple. The shadow must never be recognized, or it will have to be addressed and dealt with. But the shadow is recognized by other people, which is why, as Jung says, quote, "A man who is possessed by a shadow is always standing in his own light and falling into his own traps." End quote. This leads to one of the major themes in the movie, which is Project Mayhem. You're not supposed to talk about that either, but let's talk about it anyways. Carl Jung said that the mental illness of the masses was rooted in the psychology of the individual, and this idea is echoed perfectly by Fight Club's Project Mayhem. The project is the collective chaotic action of members of Fight Club against society. These crimes specifically target property and not people. They burn down buildings, they destroy statues, they seek to destroy things that others have made. Carl Jung would say that if the individuals in a society don't address their issues, they eventually become collective issues. Resentment of yourself is reflected in resentment of society. Jung wrote, quote, "To quite a terrifying degree, we are threatened by wars and revolutions, which are nothing other than psychic epidemics. At any moment, several millions of human beings may be smitten with a new madness, and then we shall have another world war or devastating revolution." End quote. Project Mayhem peaks with Tyler Durden and dozens of members of Fight Club planting bombs in many major banking and credit card buildings in an attempt to erase the debt of the underclass. This leads us to the final scene in Fight Club, where Jack does something completely unexpected. He confronts his shadow. At the very end of the movie, which is also the beginning of the movie, Jack shoots himself. This is the final action of confronting the shadow, necessary for complete integration. By pulling the trigger, Jack symbolically destroys Tyler Durden, the embodiment of his repressed desires and chaotic impulses, in an attempt to reclaim control over his psyche. This act is not one of self-destruction, but of transformation, as Jack faces the terrifying reality of his shadow head-on, acknowledging its existence rather than allowing it to operate in secrecy. In Jungian terms, this confrontation is the pivotal moment of individuation. Jung said that the process of individuation, which is a complex set of interactions with the unconscious, starts with addressing your shadow. As the buildings collapse in the background, erasing the financial records of a society built on exploitation, Jack stands with Marla, watching the world they've known crumble. This final scene suggests that by confronting the shadow, Jack has not only liberated himself, but has also set in motion a collective reckoning, forcing society to face its own suppressed truths. Fight Club addresses the collective modern shadow in cinematic format, but right around the time that Fight Club came out, one man had also forced the American public to reckon with its modern collective shadow. That man is Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski is the internet's favorite terrorist. In his manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future, he argued that the relentless advance of technology strips individuals of autonomy, reducing them to cogs in a dehumanizing machine. This sentiment echoes Tyler Durden's disdain for consumer culture and corporate control.
Now, why do guys like you and I know what a teve is? Is this essential to our survival in the hunter-gatherer sense of the word?
While Project Mayhem sought to dismantle societal structures through collective chaos, Kaczynski acted alone, mailing bombs to targets he believed represented the technological system, killing 3 and injuring dozens over nearly 2 decades. His isolation in a Montana cabin, far removed from the urban decay Jack and Tyler rebelled against, was his attempt to escape the shadow of modernity, yet it only deepened his own entanglement with it. As Jung would say, you can run from your shadow, but you can't hide. The tragedy of Ted Kaczynski is that he was brilliant, with an Einstein-level IQ of 167. He was a mathematician with brilliant writing ability. Fight Club begs the question that Ted Kaczynski never answered. What could you be if you integrated your shadow?